Happy Wednesday, everyone. I am L. Steven Swartz, and welcome to Swartz Talkin Sports, but you can still call me Les. Anyway, got a great show tonight. It's got a little bit of a basketball flavor. It's going to be good. Before we start tonight, please hit that subscribe button. We're making our drive to 1,100, so we can do it with your help. Please comment on tonight's show with our live guest. And also, if this is your first time watching this show and it's not live, please hit those comment buttons. We'll answer them as best we can. Well, let's get tonight's show rolling. First of all, I want to bring on my co-host, my man from Jacksonville, national championship quarterback with the 1978 Florida A&M Rattlers, and voice of the Rattlers basketball and football broadcasts with Melvin Beal. Number 2, my man, Al the Rattler Chester.
My man, greetings from Jacksonville, my brother from another mother.
What's going on, Rattler?
Hey, man, we're trying to make it happen down here.
Well, we got a good one tonight, man. We talk college basketball a lot. It's one of my passions, and we got some great things going on right now. But before I bring on tonight's special guest, how about tonight's special co-host, okay? And he's got he's got a long-time relationship with our guest tonight. It's going to be good. So let's bring on tonight's special guest, a good friend of mine, special co-host, Mr. Steve Stefano from Philly all the way now. He's in North Carolina. Steve, thanks so much for jumping on tonight's show.
Physically in North Carolina, but spiritually still in Philly.
Steve also co-authored Almost Perfect, the 64 rise and fall of the Philadelphia Phillies throughout tonight's show. Tony will be popping that up on the board. So any of you Philly fans out there, I know we got some out there. Hey, Eagles win the Super Bowl. A lot of things going on in Philly with the exception of the Sixers. But, Steve, we'll talk a little bit about that. So I think it's time to bring on tonight's special guest. I'm excited because I followed this guy's career for a long time. Long time NCAA basketball coach, 24 years at St. Joseph's. Hey, his 2003-2014 went undefeated. It went to the Elite Eight. Almost had a shot at the Final Four. Let's bring him on, Mr. Phil Martelli. Coach.
Oh, thank you.
Coach Phil, how you doing?
Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, Steve, you and Phil go a long ways back. We're not going to talk about how old we are and how young we are, but let's talk a little bit about your relationship and how it all began.
So it goes back to 1966. I was in sixth grade. Phil was in seventh grade. And I'd heard about this guy because St. Philomena's, our grade school, did not usually have a good basketball team. And I heard that they were bringing this kid in from Southwest Philly. And, he was going to be a difference maker. And he was. But my favorite story about Phil is, and Phil may or may not remember this, I remind him of this all the time. We were standing outside the old school steps, and Phil looked at me. Now remember, this is like 1966, 1967. We were all basketball crazy, Big Five crazy. And Phil looked at me and said, "Stevie, someday I'm going to coach St. Joe's." Wow. And he followed that up with, "Someday I'm going to sit in Jack Ramsey's chair."
Wow.
And there it is, 20 some years, right? 25 years.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a true story. That is an absolute true story. And Phil will tell you, my memory is pretty good.
Very good.
Well, guys, I want to talk about what was it like to grow up in Philly during that era? I know it's a big professional sports town, but like you just said, Phil, the big five, you got those five schools in that small area. They play in those, at the time, in those small gyms. What were those battles like? Did you guys go as kids and go watch all of those games?
Well, when I moved to the suburbs, I would look around on Friday and Saturdays during the winter and say, "What do you guys do? Don't you go to the Palestra?" Because when I was in Southwest Philly, that's what we did. We got on the trolley, we went down there, and we were a bunch of playground rats that got in there. But before you got into the Palestra, you had to declare your team. So some guys were Penn fans, some guys were LaSalle fans, some guys were Villanova fans. And I, at an early age, was just enamored with the noise and the passion that the St. Joe fan brought to the game. And then on top of it, not really knowing the X and O's of the game, but the style that Jack Ramsey put into play. So when I moved to the suburbs and met up with Stevie and the group of guys and our coaches out there, I was so impressed the fact that we had a gym for our school and that we practiced, and it meant something to practice. And the team was not good. And then when I went out there were a bunch of eighth graders that were good. They weren't really basketball players. One guy was a basketball player. The rest of them were good athletes. And then the seventh graders, which was my class, we had a bunch of basketball nuts. I mean, the proverbial, "Oh, did you shovel snow?" Of course we did. Did you play in the rain? Of course we did. Like, what do you mean you didn't? It would be the way we would put it. And then when it melted down to Stevie's class, we all went to one playground. And so I would say I became more of a player when I moved to the suburbs and less of a fan. But we all knew what channel the games were on. There weren't that many games on TV.
Right.
And they weren't on a standard channel. And that's all we talked about. We just talked about this basketball. And one of the things, Les, that somewhat can get overlooked is that everybody in Philadelphia would focus on, well, the Big Five schools. But you have to remember that we had this whole what we called small college. And these guys were in the Hall of Fame. Herb McGee was at Philadelphia Textile. He won a national championship. He's in the Hall of Fame. John Chaney went from a public high school coach to Chaney State. And obviously he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But at Chaney State, John Chaney shared a court with Vivian Stringer, who's in the Hall of Fame. The men's and the women's team practiced at the exact same time on half a court.
Wow.
And the women's team at Chaney won a national championship. John Chaney's team won a national championship. Alan Rowe, the guy that I played for in college, he won 800 or 900 games. The small college environment, because there were so many players that came from the Catholic School League and the public school, was just a feeder system. And then you go back and just say, well, where did that guy play in college. Well, he didn't play in college. And some guys didn't even play in high school, but you knew from the playgrounds that they were just fabulous players. It was almost, if you were into basketball, it was a foolproof way of going through life because there were just so many opportunities.
Coach Phil, let me ask you this. Philadelphia back in the day, I'm a little bit younger than you guys, but Philadelphia, that whole area is just known for basketball traditionally. As a player, though, who did you idolize as a player? Who did you want to be like before you got into coaching? As a player, as a high school player?
Well, I was crazy about Ernie DiGregorio when he was at Providence.
Ernie D.
And my Stevie and I, grade school coach, guy by the name of Tom Gallagher, he got tickets, got me in to see Ernie DiGregorio play at the old Villanova Fieldhouse. I was an absolute limit, and I'm going to make this is a flat out, this is a fact. This is a fact. The greatest college player, it would not even be an argument anymore. If he had the three-point line and he had TV the way it is, the greatest college player of all time is Pete Maravich.
You have no arguments here.
No one ever did no one ever even dreamt of doing what he did. Now,
Hey, Les, okay, Phil, I'm sorry.
We lost.
I didn't know those. I mean, but Ernie DiGregorio was because of his passing ability was what set him apart in my mind.
An interesting fact, though, Ernie DiGregorio goes on to play for Jack Ramsey with the Buffalo Braves.
Right.
That's a great connection right there. I mean, and if he didn't get hurt, listen, I don't want to say I'm a lot younger than everyone on the panel here, but I do remember a little bit. He got hurt in that NCAA basketball game, or I think Providence College has a chance of winning the national championship. I think it was 72 or 71 or 72 or something like that. 73.
He had Marvin Barnes.
And yeah, they had a great basketball team under Joe Mulaney, I think, was the head coach back in the day.
So Les, let me add something onto this if I can.
Yeah.
So Phil mentioned this little outdoor basketball court that we used to play at all the time, and it was real competitive. You know, you went there. If you didn't get in the first game, you called winners. You hated to lose because then you would probably have to sit out 2 games. And Phil and I decided about maybe 7 or 8 years ago to have a reunion of the guys that used to play there. So we had a pub, and there must have been 80 people that showed up that played on that little basketball court from ages 40 to ages 80.
Wow. Okay. That's
played
impressive.
there.
That's impressive, Al.
Actually, the Philadelphia Inquirer.
That's cool.
Yeah. Very
super cool. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you. So obviously, Coach, you get into coaching, right? And that's everyone knows Phil Martelli. We'll talk about your son in a little bit too, because he's having some really good success down at Bryant in Rhode Island. But we've got a lot of questions too, and I want to lead these into the questions because we got a lot of questions for you coaching when you coached. What led you into coaching? I know Stevie says, you're going to coach St. John's one day, but you coached at Widener. You got the head coaching job, in high school and junior, or the Gino Auriemma connection. What got you into coaching? And was that like a passion in your life when you were done playing and you graduated? You're like, I want to be a coach.
It was way before that.
Okay.
It was, and it was a fascination with the 3 guys that coached us when we were kids. One was a mailman, one was a banker, and one was a politician. And I can remember at the age of 12 and 13 thinking, that's a really powerful position that they have. They were a volunteer coach, but they could get 12 to 13, maybe 15. Stevie knows better than I know how many guys we had on our team, and we all pushed in the same direction. And it was all about winning a championship. It wasn't like, I hope I can play in high school because I play in this grade school. And it really wasn't about like winning a championship. It was like, we're pretty good. and let's see who we can. So they would take us and let us play against a lot of different teams. And I believe this in my core. Basketball is the great societal experiment, because basketball doesn't matter if you're black or white, doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, doesn't matter if you're from the city or from Florida, if you're from Carolina, or you can go somewhere and find a game. Like, I know Stevie still shoots the ball, right? If you can shoot, pass, dribble, and you're willing to compete, there is no greater societal experiment. And we're fortunate that we came up after there were any kind of barriers, any kind of racial barriers. Basketball does not discriminate, never has discriminated. And so, to me, having those guys kind of lead the way. So as soon as I got out of grade school, I would say to them, "Can I coach in the summer league?" Now, I'll be honest with you. I thought it was act the fool, be on the sideline, act the fool, yell at referees. And then luckily over time, I've realized that that's not coaching. That's not what this is about. And I sit here and say to you, like, I'm not an X and O expert in any way, shape, or form, but I realized that it was a people-driven profession, and I like to think that I can do people in a way that allowed me to be successful.
So,
but I was coaching in the ninth grade. I started coaching in the ninth grade.
Okay, so you kind of had it in your blood, like you got it in early. Like, I want to be a coach.
That's it.
I mean,
yes.
Well, we do have some questions out here, and I know they started early, Coach. So I know Barry Smith's got some questions, and then John's got some good ones as well. So why don't we throw a couple questions out from Barry?
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. Barry Smith asks, what are the differences or similarities between SJU and Michigan?
So he wants to know, and we're jumping way ahead too here, Coach, about the differences of coaching at St. Joseph's versus being an assistant at Michigan. What were the differences? Other than being not a head coach.
Well, the similarities are there were 5 guys that played for the name on the front of the shirt. And that you were competing against good coaches who had a burning desire to win their games also. And that's where it ended. Everything at Michigan was big. I'm glad I did it. I didn't like being away from my family. I didn't like, as Stevie has said multiple times, I didn't like being away from Philadelphia. And everything was big. Think about this. At the University of Michigan, you can drive down a street, you can look to your right, and there's a field there. And you think it is a high school football field. They have the bleachers, they have the coaching box, the whole bit. You know what that field was? The practice field for the University of Michigan marching band.
Oh my God. That is big.
So everything was larger than life. The players were bigger than they were at St. Joseph's, positionally bigger. The arenas are much bigger. The travel is bigger. The support is bigger. And just for a second, that Big Ten coaching, I thought going out there, Les, to be honest with you, Al, Stevie, I thought it was like they slammed into each other and the toughest team always won. And then I got out there and I was like, these offensive minds are intimidating to me, because I thought I didn't know everything. I knew I didn't know everything, but wow, they're spectacular in the way they think about the game. And then the other thing would be, and I'm not knocking any of the schools in Philadelphia or St. Joseph's in any way, but when I went to Michigan, everybody, from the maintenance people to the person in charge of IT to the travel coordinator to the compliance people, they got up with this idea. We would like to win the national championship. And how can I help? And then they would say to you as a coach, how can I help you? And that's not, when you're at a smaller place, you have to think a little bit smaller. Like, let's win. How do we win our league championship? and then proceed, except when you have an extraordinary team like I had, where you would say, no, I think that we are a legitimate national contender. Those are the size of everything, size of the academic, the athletic department is a huge difference.
I was going to say, just the athletic budget alone, Phil, is just massive. It's got to dwarf whatever St. Joseph's had. To your point out, and we're going to get on the St. Joseph's because you had a tremendous run of success there, 24 years, multiple NCAA tournament appearances, an Elite Eight appearance, an undefeated team. That was a book that just came out. We're going to talk about that as well. But Joni, I know John has a question regarding Michigan on that. I think it's very important. I wanted to ask this as well.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
John asks, Phil, how did you end up in Michigan? What's the connection?
Yeah,
that's a really good question. I'm not a name dropper, but when I was in my situation here in Philadelphia, I knew that I wasn't done. I wanted to be in a locker room. I wanted to be still in a locker room for two reasons. I wanted to celebrate the highest of the highs that you can celebrate with a player, but I also wanted to be there to lift them up in the lowest of the lows and to let them know that, yeah, it's low right now, but it's not the lowest of the low. That's going to come with the loss of a loved one or a loss of a job or life-changing experiences. And so over the years, I've made it a point to connect with people and not connect with them as coach, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't want to connect with them to say, well, so-and-so is kind of like he's a guy I know. No, I wanted the guys that were real, and I wanted to share with them the highs and lows of their seasons. So guys like Jim Boeheim or Mike Krzyzewski, John Calipari, these guys are all friends of mine. And so when I was sitting by myself and thinking, you know what, nothing's going to happen because you're sitting in your den and telling yourself what you want to do. So I called different guys. And then John Calipari took a call from Juwan Howard, and Juwan said, look, I'm going to interview for this job. I know they're going to ask me about a staff, and I would like to have a coach on that staff who's done this, been there, done that. Okay. And Calipari said to him, just hang up right now, call this number, and talk to Phil. And Juwan called me because John Calipari was the one that put his stamp on it and said, this is something that you should do.
So you had no previous relationship or connection with Juwan Howard?
I had 3 different occasions with him.
Okay.
One, the Miami Heat were coming into the St. Joe Fieldhouse to practice for a playoff series against the Sixers. And you could pass that to somebody else, but it was a Saturday, and I said, I'll go down. I'm not above opening the gym and making sure that they have what they need. And I remember, and Juwan subsequently would say they were all blown away that the head coach, who had some notoriety, would take the time to let them be there. The second thing that happened was I went to a Miami Heat 76er playoff game. It was an elimination game, a playoff game. And the very next day, I was in Indianapolis recruiting, and Juwan Howard was there to see his son. And I went over and I said something to him about, hey, I was in Philly last night. And then there was a third occasion around the death of Jack Ramsey, who was the radio broadcast for Miami Heat. Juwan was either a player or a staff member with the Miami Heat. And we had occasion just to say, in passing, just say hello. Juwan, with all of the notoriety, Fab Five and first $100 million player, Juwan was very respectful of the history of the game. He and I'm not saying I was like I'm this big part of it, but he knew that some of the things that we had accomplished at St. Joseph's were extraordinary. And I could always use I could always use the fact that my guys had played in that league, and Jameer Nelson and Delonte West. So the NBA, not pay homage, but they pay respect to the fact that, you know what, those are your guys, and they speak highly of you, so you're one of us.
Well, Phil, I was going to ask you, with your breadth of experience and Juwan being somewhat a rookie coach in comparison, how did he lean on you? How did you guys blend to make it all work at Michigan?
Well, when I went out there and we had this conversation, and I feel this about everybody in any position, I don't think we all need to be listened to. Like, you don't have to listen to me, but please hear me. Just pay me the respect of hearing me. Because I think sometimes when we ask people to listen to us, we're asking them to agree with us and to do it our way. And I came away from that experience, from the very first conversation, is that I was going to be heard. Not always listened to, but I would be heard, and I could function in that area. My first year was rough, though, because I wasn't sure when to speak and how forceful to speak. And we were good, but then COVID hit. So we didn't really get a real rhythm until our second and third year. And I was more like a listener. I was kind of like an observer. We had a remarkable offensive coordinator in Howard Isley, terrific Howard Isley, who played for the Utah Jazz.
It was the Boston College kid, wasn't he?
Yes, Boston College. He was a backup in that Utah Jazz Chicago Bulls series. Mm-hmm. He was a backup to John Stockton. He was an unbelievable offensive mind. Sadi Washington, who will one day be a head coach, is now assistant coach at Michigan State. He was the defensive coordinator. And I was kind of special situations and practice. So when they would be working in practice, I would kind of be going around taking notes, and I would be making sure that everybody's language was the same. If we're all talking about hedging a ball screen, let's all use the word hedge. Don't you use block and me use hedge, because you're going to confuse the players. Right. So it was comfortable. And then retrospectively, I wish I had been more forceful, because some of the unraveling came from, I think, Juwan, like maybe not but going out on an island and thinking, you know what, maybe I should pump the brakes a little bit and think of it this way or think of it that way. Even the last year, the man had open heart surgery and came back to coach like 31 days later. Wow. Somebody should have stepped up and said, you know what, not now, not now. Yeah. You are more important than we at this point. But it's ironic. I just was texting with him yesterday because I saw that he went back to Michigan on Sunday for his son's senior day. Think about that. Here's a place where you're a legend. It didn't work out. They asked you not to come back, basically. And he had the integrity and the class to go back to and the love of son to be there for his son's senior day. I sent him a note. I told him, you know what? I have great admiration for you and your wife doing that. And we had a nice little exchange yesterday.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult.
Really, 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 really good person. And man, is he smart, offensive basketball.
Well, Phil, you know, and we do have more questions out there. And Steve, I want to get your opinions of Phil as a head coach at St. Joseph's. But that's what you're tied to. You are tied to your time at St. Joseph's, 24 years. Like I said, it doesn't happen for a lot of coaches that are at one school for that period of time. And to be as successful as you were, your first year, you go to the NIT. But so many people are, you know, like I said, there's a book, A Soaring Season, about the 2003-2004 Basketball Season at St. Joe's, authored by Aaron Bracey, which just came out. Tony, thank you so much. Man, Tony, you just outdo yourself. You're the wizard. You just popped that thing up there. So, and that just came out March 1st, which I'll be buying. That'll be pretty awesome. I want to read that. I remember that season. You had a tremendous backcourt, an all-NBA backcourt, in Jameer Nelson, who I think was Player of the Year that year?
Yes, he was.
Player of the Year, and Delonte West, who played with my Celtics, played with a number of teams. Tony, I think you got some video that you may be able to run during when we're talking about it. But Stevie, was there any doubt that Phil would succeed at St. Joseph's, knowing him through his whole career, what he was going to do, that when he got that head job and he got that Jack Ramsey's, he got in his seat where he wanted to as a kid, that he was going to succeed to the level that he did?
No, I never had any doubt at all. In fact, Phil coached me when I was in 10th grade.
Phil, you had your work cut out for you if you coached Stevie.
Oh, no, not this guy.
But no, I never had a doubt. And his record speaks for itself. And, Phil has a podcast called Make a Difference.
Yep.
And he went to, that's my school, St. Joe's. That's where I graduated from, St. Joseph's. And, they were just kind of middling until he went there and he turned that franchise around. Not franchise, that college team around. And you don't need my opinion. You just need to look at the stats, look at the record.
7 NCAA tournament appearances, and like I said, that 03-04 team, Phil, legendary at St. Joseph's. And St. Joseph's had some massive upsets. I remember in '80, I think they upset the number 1 ranked DePaul Blue Demons with Mark Aguirre with the pass underneath and the layup at the last second to knock them off. I think it was 44-42 or something like that, if I remember. But that season, you guys go undefeated in the A-10, which is a good league. You're talking, it's a tough league back then. And you guys lose. You get upset, I think, by Xavier. How was the mindset? Your team goes undefeated. You get upset by Xavier. How do you get that team back on track to make a run? Guys must have been devastated.
It was at Dayton Arena.
Yep.
It was in a 1-4 quarterfinal game. We had beaten Xavier a couple of weeks earlier. And think about this, all basketball nuts on this. Here I am, basically a playground rat that has the only job that he ever wanted in his life. And I look across the court that day at Xavier. Jerry West and Larry Bird were there to watch my team.
Wow.
And It was chilling. It was a very chilling thing. And we beat Xavier that day. Delonte West had one of the most remarkable games you could have. He was 12 for 12 from the field. He was 8 for 8 from the foul line. And we beat them wire to wire. And I remember walking off the court. That probably made us about 15 or 16-0. And I said to Don DeGiulia, the athletic director, I said, Don, I have this sneaking suspicion we're going to go undefeated.
Wow.
Now, nobody ever, how would you even think of that? And so they built them, they came roaring back, and then they flipped the switch. And they overwhelmed us with their size at Dayton Arena, 12 o'clock game on a Thursday. And they battered us. And it was not a game at halftime. And then it was not a game. And finally, I took Jameer Nelson out with about 5 minutes left. And I said, look, it's just not going to happen today. I took Delonte West out 2 minutes later, and Delonte looked at me and said, I just need a 20-second blow, and I'm going to go back in, and we'll win this game.
Wow.
And I said, Delonte, it's not going to happen today. And then he turned to put himself back in the game because he knew I wasn't going to put him in the game. He turned to put himself back in the game because he was convinced that he could will us to come from behind. What I did after that was I gave them a couple days off. And then we met on Sunday morning. So it would be Selection Sunday that afternoon. That Sunday morning, we went back to our very first practice of the season without telling them. I scripted every practice, and I had it in my hand. And if somebody came to our practice, I gave you a copy of the script. Here's what we're going to do. And we stayed to the minute on every practice. That's one of the things I'm proudest of in my coaching career. I never wasted people's time. And we were going to do it exactly to this script. And when we finished the practice, they didn't know. They didn't quite know. We gathered and they said, okay, this afternoon will be the selection show. But anybody know what we just did? And nobody knew. Nobody knew. And I said, this is the first practice of the year.
Wow.
This was October 15th's practice. We just repeated our first practice. And then, fellas, what did we do from that first practice until last Thursday? And they all said, we won every game. I said, so now we just have to win 6 of them to win the national championship.
Wow.
And that's exactly what we did. We went about trying to win. We didn't try to win 6 games. We tried to win 1 game 6 times.
Right.
And we fell short.
I know, in a great game, 64-62, Lucas, who couldn't throw the ball in the ocean, hits a jumper, with basically no time left. Jameer misses.
But one of the things that happened in that game is we were 7 for 28 from 3. We had shot 40% from 3 all year long. We shot 25% that day. Now, some would say the setting, the tension. I would be more apt to applaud Oklahoma State because they got our Achilles heel, and that was size against us. You couldn't match our skill,
right?
But you could match us in size. That's what Xavier did to us. That's what Oklahoma State did to us.
Talk a little bit about Jameer Nelson and Delonte West. That was a premier backcourt, the best backcourt in college basketball that year. We talked about it. Jameer Nelson goes on, wins Player of the Year. They both have really, really solid, very, very good NBA career.
From the day that I saw him play as a freshman in high school, junior in high school, he never changed. His strength was extraordinary. His mental strength was beyond description. His values in terms of that position being geared to team success more than individual success. And then when he had success, he was the National Freshman of the Year too.
Wow.
So when he had success early, he became a relentless worker. And when Delonte came in, he was kind of like a wild horse. He didn't play as much his freshman year. He only made 3 threes. He only made 3 threes his freshman year. He didn't play nearly as much as he wanted. He had this burning desire only to win. He cheated on every drill in practice. He made up scores so that he could win. He never wanted to finish second. And his sophomore year, he settled in and he started, and they were good. They were really good. Jameer was a junior and Delonte was a sophomore. We played Auburn in Florida in the NCAA tournament, and Delonte had a stress reaction in his leg, not a stress fracture, but a stress reaction in his leg. We weren't able to play him at the back end of the year. We could spot him, but we couldn't play him as much. And then when Jameer came back, I remember the day when he told us he would pull his name out of the NBA draft. And I said, all right, the challenge now is everything has to get better. Our scouting has to get better. Our practices have to get better. Our weight sessions have to get better because he's going to be the best player in America, and we owe him the best that we all have. And Delonte in that team meeting said, there's no reason that we can't go undefeated.
Wow.
And he was so driven to not be good. He was driven to be great. And along the way, 2/3 of the way through that season, Delonte led us in assist. Here's Jameer, the best point guard in America, and Delonte led us in assist through 2/3 of that season because his IQ, his motor, and then his demand that his teammates commit. Jameer could lead and did lead. Delonte demanded. That was the difference. I hate to be a cliche, but One was ice and one was fire.
Mhm.
And man, they fit together.
Yeah, it was a great backcourt. I mean, it's an iconic backcourt, one of the best backcourts I've ever seen in college basketball. We do have some more questions. I know that, Joni, you want to throw a couple more out there?
Yes.
That we have for Coach?
John Irwin also asks, how would you describe your coaching philosophy? Has it evolved over the years? And if so, how?
Oh, good one, John.
That's a really good question. Probably it evolved in the way that I really wanted this to be about the players and their experience. And where it stayed the same as the foundations that I laid down in the very beginning of my tenure was daily improvement. I wanted to be charged with making our players a little bit better player, a little bit better student, a little bit better person each day. And if we could focus on daily improvement, at the end of a year, at the end of a career, we could be playing our best basketball, or we could be on the verge of graduating from college if we've done daily improvement. I think the second thing that stayed the same was communicating. And I think one of the things about communicating is not these machines, these phones, but you have to do it eye to eye. And you have to work on your listening skills, not just your talking and your verbal skills. You have to work on your listening skills. And then I want it to be built on respect. Respect given before it was expected. Respect given in terms of a practice schedule. None of my players would ever be able to say, I don't know what time practice is. I gave them that schedule for the whole semester. And probably in the course of my 24 years, I changed it 5 times over funerals. But I never changed it because all I was asking them for was, I want 2 hours this day. And then the rest of the time, you can go be a brother, you can be a son, you can be a boyfriend, you could be a college junior, sophomore, do whatever that is, whatever that entails. If they weren't allowed to reach in my pocket and spend my money, I wasn't allowed to spend their time. So I wanted this to be built on respect. And what I tried to stay consistent with was, I really wanted to say to people, how can I help you? Tell me how to help you. And more than anything else, that was always important to me. I think over the course of my time, I got less involved with referees. They didn't they didn't have as much of a impact on me. And I always wanted people to understand this. The oldest guys on your team, it's their team. It was my program. It was their team. So how do we make their team memorable for them? And this is a big deal with Stevie. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to create for myself memories for a lifetime. And when I connect with him, I know it's the same thing. We have memories for a lifetime, and no one can have those. They're ours.
Coach Phil, along those same lines, you coached a long time. You've seen the evolution of the game kind of change the way it's played now. Talk to us about the type of kids you recruited when you first started in comparison to the kid that's coming out of high school now.
Yeah, I'd like to hear this.
To be honest with you, I think they're all the same. I think they're the same kid. I think they have a burning desire. I think they have a burning desire to take this game to the highest levels. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that the young people today have been raised to communicate, but we're always looking for them to tell us what they think. And what I wonder is, are we teaching them to listen, to process, rather than just spout off, this is what I think. I'm not a big cliche guy, so I'm not like, well, we got underdogs and you were overlooked or you should have been here. No, I think that people that base their decisions in life on relationships and not on things have a better chance of finding happiness. That's what I wanted. I just wanted to be able to say to players at the end, I'm going to do the very best I can for you. I'm going to ask that you do the very best you can for us. And at the end of the day, whether it's 1 year and you transfer or whether it's 4 years and you graduate from school, I want to be able to say, would you do it again? Would you do it again? And if not, tell me how I can be better, because I want to be better for the next group or the next group or the next group. So to me, I think all players want to be challenged. They all want to be great. And it's our responsibility as the teachers, leaders, adults, so to speak, to say to them, great for you, Al, is different than what's great for Stevie. But he's going to get everything I have to make sure that he reaches his goal and his dream and his maximum point. I'm not one that thinks, we've ruined them. Nah. And the game's not ruined. The game's in a funky spot, but it's not ruined. That's for sure.
And I want to get into, so Phil, we're 43, Phil and Steve both, we're 43 minutes in, and I want to see, can you guys hang for another 10, 15 minutes? Is that okay? Are we good if we can do, because there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about the game, where it is right now. I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming tournament and who do you like as a dark horse that's playing really good basketball. We just chatted before the show, and we do have a couple more questions as well. And I want to talk about the Joe Lapchick Award that you were the recipient of with a good friend, Gino Oriema. I want you to talk about that very special award as well. And your Make a Difference podcast. I definitely want to get these things out there. So if you guys can hang for another 10 minutes, is that
Sure,
okay?
I'm good.
All right, that's perfect. All right, so Phil, the game, we talk about it today. We talk about the college game. Al and I talk about it all the time. Everyone wants instant gratification, the microwave society, right? You got the NIL, which is really not NIL anymore. That's name, image, and likeness. It's now you're just getting paid.
Just pay for play.
Exactly.
When the settlement comes in July, the House settlement comes in, then we can nix all this. Then everybody's going to get paid, and then those schools that are really cooking are also going to have an NIL portion, and you're going to be talking about kids making mid six figures, right? They're VCU in the Atlantic 10 has already said we're giving $300,000 straight up, and then these other programs will decide. That people, ironically, some of the smaller schools are saying they're opting in. I don't know where the money comes from. This is not sustainable, but that's not woe is us, the sky is falling. This is not sustainable.
I agree.
Except those that have football.
Well, that's the moneymaker.
That kind of war chest are going to be able to sustain this.
Well, you just came from Michigan.
We're going to see schools drop sports, which is really sad.
That's a shame. Yeah.
Because these kids, those Olympic sport kids, they deserve a chance to go through college playing on a team. There's no better feeling than being on a team. I don't care what level. And so we are going to pay for play. It will be different. They're going to mess with the NCAA tournament. They'll enlarge the tournament. So you have that.
Don't like it.
But here's how I view it. I think all these things came together at one time, right? So we're going to have a transfer portal where there's no sit out at all. First time transfer, second time transfer, no. We'll have a COVID year. We're going to have pay for play. So basically what they did is they put everybody in a car and they said, there's your destination. We want you to get there. by the way, the course is downhill and your car has no brakes and no seatbelts. Good luck. So if we did that in real life, not everybody would make it. There would be accidents along the way. But the strongest would survive. That's what I think is going to. I think we're going to head towards some form of a club system like they have in Europe. And you'll have the elite. They don't have the guts to tear away at the tournament. So they're going to hold 10 or 12 spots for the Butlers of the world, for the Florida Atlantics of the world. They'll hold those spots and let you kind of slide in there and qualify for the tournament. They're not going to mess significantly with March Madness. It's different. And I just saw an interview with Rick Pitino yesterday, and he said, you have to adjust. For a long time, when this all started, everybody wanted to play Bobby Knight's man-to-man or John Chaney's zone defense and run Pete Carrill's offense. And then you had to adjust because, well, that didn't fit me, or that didn't fit this coaching style or this group of players. So different doesn't mean better or worse. It just means different. And those that adjust will be from the bigger schools, in my opinion.
You see, and so Al and I talk about this, and we get Benny coming on afterwards, and another co-host, and we talk about it all the time. It's my contention, both Steve and Phil, I want to get your input on this, is, listen, everything's driven by football. I mean, we love March Madness. I know Dukes and the Indianas and the North Carolinas and the Blue Bloods of the world, UConns and things like that, but let's not kid ourselves. It's run by football. They're the ones who fill up the stadiums with 100,000 people, and they're the ones who get the massive TV contracts, right? It's my contention that there's going to be about a 60 or 65 or 70 team league eventually. I think the conferences will eventually break down. I mean, guys are popping all over the place. The Pac-10, Pac-12, Pac-8, whatever it was, is now gone. I mean, that was an iconic conference that had championships in all sports. That's gone.
Come on, Les, call it the way it is. Stevie is in ACC country.
Right.
And if I called him and said, Stevie, I have a ticket for an ACC game. By the way, it's Stanford against Wake Forest. He would look at me like I had 9 heads.
Exactly.
Right, Stevie? Like,
Yeah.
The conference affiliation is done.
I don't have a clue who plays in what, and it's so
You're a
saturated.
sports nut.
Yeah, and I don't know who plays in what in down here in the ACC.
Yeah, it's totally changed with the conference realignments. It used to be based on regionally, where you were. Now it's all based on money. I mean, the fact that Stanford and California go all the way across the coast, which makes no sense because, Phil, to your point, there's other sports. It's not just football and basketball.
Amen, brother. Amen. There it is. I was just going to say that. Like, how in the world do we look at people and say Stanford is going to Clemson for a 3-game baseball series this weekend? What?
That doesn't make sense.
What?
No.
And again, one man. This is just a one-man opinion. Why we don't gravitate to what they do in hockey, right? They run a successful hockey championship, right? The Frozen Four.
I love it.
They play regional all year.
Yep.
So maybe it's under the moniker of the Big Ten, whatever it would be. But you're telling me that NC State's best baseball team could play 80 games and never spend a night in a hotel.
That's what it should be.
They could play field hockey. How many ever matches they play in field hockey? They could do the same thing. Regionalize it, still have a national tournament, but you're onto something here about these leagues. Like, they're going to disappear.
They have to.
I mean, it's just a super conference.
Yeah. Because I look at it like this, guys, and we talk about the money aspect of this entire thing. You're going to get a commissioner. I know they floated the idea to Nick Saban. You're going to be the commissioner of the CFP, and he doesn't want it. He doesn't need a headache like that. He likes doing his gig at ESPN. But the bottom line is they're going to negotiate their own TV deals. Why should conference affiliations get it? Let the schools get it. They're going to get billions of dollars. The schools are going to get way more money. They're going to be able to pay the players more. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world to me. But what's going to happen to me, guys, again, I'll throw this out to you, Steve and Phil, is the little guy's going to get hurt by that. The HBCU schools that Al's affiliated with, the non-group, the group of 5 schools, they're going to get killed in this thing because they're not going to be part of this. And how in the world are they going to get players? They're going to develop players, and what's going to happen? When they develop that player and he gets pretty good, he's getting poached. There's no doubt about it. These players are going to be poached by the bigger programs. That's the way I see it happening.
Which is why they're not playing spring football games this
they're not.
year.
Yeah, they're not even playing spring football games because they don't want
football.
people to look at their teams.
Right.
Let me share something with you that maybe help drive this home. When I first moved down to North Carolina from the Philly area, it was a Friday, 1984, and it was actually 83, and I went into work at our headquarters, Glaxo's headquarters, and I'm looking around. I said, "Where is everybody?" And somebody came up to me and said, "It's ACC Friday. Nobody shows up for work on ACC Friday."
Yeah, well, that doesn't happen now, Steve.
No.
I mean, you know.
I was like the only guy there.
Well, you're a true Philly guy. Come on, you work hard. Come on, we know that, right? You Philly guys work hard. You throw snowballs at Santa Claus. We don't get into that, but you guys work hard. Listen, before we go, we got a lot of things. Just real quick, Phil, Make a Difference podcast. Tell our listeners about it, how they can see it. I viewed it. It's great. Talk a little bit about it.
Make a Difference podcast was my nephew's idea. Make a Difference is a campaign that I use for my public speaking. And I just want to come in and make a difference with one person in that audience. And he asked me about a podcast. He wanted it to be basketball centric. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. So we do it once a week. And we go all over the board in terms of guests. We've had school superintendents. We had a baseball coach from the Philadelphia Public League who was a male breast cancer survivor.
Wow.
I wanted his story to get out there. There's actually a nun in Philadelphia who has worked with the homeless her whole career, Sister Mary Scullion. She's coming on. Right now we're basketball centric. So we had Aaron Bracey last week. We have Joe Lenardi coming up. We have an ESPN guy coming up the week after that, the week of the tournament. And then we're going to have a player. We've had Hunter Dickinson on there, Tom Izzo, John Calipari, Gino Auriemma. But I want CEOs. Mm-hmm. I want people that truly are making a difference in their communities. It's been exhilarating to plan and to break it down. Where you find it, I don't know. Like, I know there's Spotify. I know all those things. But
Tony will find it. We'll get it up there.
It's out there. You can find Make a Difference, and I appreciate you mentioning it. So I have been just ecstatic, and I can't wait to get into the spring and the summer. And I really want to highlight the people in communities who are getting their fingers dirty because they're working so hard for others. That's what I want Make a Difference to be about.
Very admirable. I like it. Joe Lapchick, Character Award. Talk about it. You being inducted along with your good friend Gino Auriemma. What was that like?
Well, the induction will come in September.
Okay.
I was blown away when I got the phone call because I'm aware of the names, people who have received it. I love the fact that it had nothing to do with your basketball record, but more about what you've given back. Have you given more than you've taken? And that's what I pride myself on. And to get that call was special. And when they said Gino, because 50 years ago, Gino was my JV coach. I was the varsity head coach, and he was the JV coach. We were together 350 days a year. the story is somewhat known, but Debbie Ryan was the coach of Virginia. She called me and she asked me to come down there and be her assistant. I told her no, I was very happy being a high school boys coach, but she should hire Gene Auriemma. She hired him without an interview. And I always joke, I wonder how he made out. I haven't been able to follow his career that closely.
He's done a pretty good job, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's only the greatest women's coach of all time. So
so far, so good.
Yeah.
He learned it all from you, Phil.
No. We shared. Just like I learned from Stevie and all those guys on the. I'm telling you, if someone could go back and create just those moments in time on that court, I am where I am today, and I've had the career I've had because of those courts. I wholeheartedly believe it. And Marion Hall was our school gym, and everybody that I came in contact with has had a piece and has been a building block to get me here. So lap check is it's great. It pales in comparison, though, I'll be honest with you, but my wife's teams are in the Hall of Fame. She won 3 national championships when she played at Immaculata College. So every time I go downstairs and say, hey, so-and-so called, and I'm getting the lap check award, she yawns and she said, yeah, but I'm in the Basketball Hall of Fame. So
it's
not easy.
I wanted to ask, who is the best basketball player in the Martelli family?
Well, she could really shoot, and I could really pass. Neither of one of us was fleet of foot. And my son, who I'm very proud of, Jimmy, is an assistant coach at Penn State. He was a good Division III player. And my son, Philip, was a walk-on with me. He wanted to learn to teach and coach from a young age, and now he's the head coach at Bryant. They just won the America East regular season title last night.
Outstanding.
And over the next hopefully the next 8 to 10 days, they'll be playing for an NCAA bid. That would be just delightful. But I'm not. I'll just say this: basketball's been good to the Martelli family.
It sure sounds like it. Actually, Smithfield, Rhode Island's Bryant. There we go.
Yes,
Coach. Let me ask you this: you've had an illustrious career. Obviously, you've been a lot of places. You've touched a lot of lives. Looking back over your career, would you do it the same way? Would you do anything different? Would you go right instead of left at any time during your career? Looking back.
Wow.
Al always has a good one.
I don't think that I would. Oftentimes people have said, do you wish that you had started earlier in college? And I can't say that. I wouldn't trade my high school experience for anything. I went to the right high school. I went to the right college for me to be able to grow. And I'll be honest with you. The other day I was sitting and thinking and thought, what if this had happened? What if there had not been St. Joe Prep for me? What if I had been at Bonner? Right? Like I want to be real emphatic with you guys. Stevie Stefano can really play. And the fact that he couldn't get a chance at Bonner makes me, like, when I say my prayers, I'm thankful for that I got a chance to go to St. Joe Prep. I got the chance to play. I got a chance to play in college. I got an early start as a high school coach. Like, all of those things that's happening. I can't say that I would change anything. Opportunities when bigger schools were calling me, and I'd be like, what are you in Philadelphia? They would say no. Then I would say, then I'm not leaving Philadelphia. There are some decisions that I made along the way coaching that I would change, that I was probably irrational about, but not career. No.
Well, Coach, we've come. Well, guys, we're now 1 hour and 1 minute in. Coach, I would love to have you back, because I just think there's just so much more to talk about. We didn't even talk about the state of basketball with the rule changes. I love that you brought up Pete Maravich, because it's my argument that I think he is most I think he was the most prolific scorer in the history of college basketball back in the day when he couldn't even play as a freshman and they didn't have a three-point line, right? So I'd love to have you back to talk about the state of the game.
Tell me in.
And I want to talk about players. I want to talk about, believe it or not, I'm going to throw up, I'm a junkie. The University of San Francisco 76 teams with Bill Cartwright and Winfred Boynes that went undefeated and got blown out by UNLV. I want to talk about Ralph Miller's Oregon State's undefeated teams that lost to Kansas State. I'm a plethora. I go off. I love all that stuff. So I would love to get into all that. And I'd love to get your input on the upcoming tournament. And who do you think? Are you going to be calling games for ESPN or?
No, no, I will. What I do anticipate is that I'll get an NIT. Okay. I'll get a couple of games in the NIT.
Okay. Do you think we could squeeze you in during the tournament for one night just to talk about the games?
Listen to me. Steve Stefano gives you the stamp of approval. I would do anything for him. Anything and everything. So count me in, but he has to be with me.
Absolutely. And I want to talk in depth about Steve's book because I brought it up and we promoted it and stuff. I read it.
My neighbor loved it. That's not his only one now. Come on now, let's expand this. He's got leadership.
He does.
He's got everything.
He does, and we're going to talk about that too as well because I want to get you guys back again to talk about it. So let's see if we can't make this happen in the next couple weeks during the tournament because I really would like to get both your takes on that stuff too, and see who's going to make a run. Is Cooper Flagg the real deal? I'd love to get your input on him as a player down the line. He's probably going to be one and done, although he says he's going to come back. I doubt it, but let's do that another time. But I want to first of all thank Steve Stefano. Steve, you're a good friend. Thank you so much for making this happen. You're the one who made the introduction. Phil, tremendous coach, tremendous person, tremendous influencer, and a tremendous just the passion you have to educate and teach young people to be better. I think it's awesome. Al, what a treat to speak with these guys.
Oh, I tell you what, we got to have these guys back, man. Coach, I really appreciate everything you talked about and all the things that you talked about. I was fortunate enough to play on an undefeated team. And I talked to my coach, all the things that you great coaches talk about, organization, communication, talking to everybody being a part from the janitor to the athletic director,
the bus driver.
And everything in between. That's the secret to success. And I've heard that. That's why I was smiling when you were saying it because my coach, Rudy Hilbert, said the same thing. I've heard this story from great coaches.
Hey, Al, we got something in common, Phil, you and me. We all played on undefeated teams. Mine was our 7th and 8th grade team at St. Philomena's.
Yeah. I did not play in an undefeated team, unfortunately. We were very good, but hey, we lost.
I would love some of your stories too, my man.
Well, let me just say, we lost to Patrick Ewing in the tournament. It was embarrassing. But I just want to first of all thank you guys again so much for hanging out with us for an hour and 4 minutes. Thanks so much. And listen, everyone out there, do not go away. We got something very special when we come back from this break. So, for Phil Martelli and Steve Stefano, we'll be right back. This is Swartz Talkin Sports. See you in 2 minutes.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition, Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Swartz Talkin Sports. I'm your host, Al Steven Swartz, but please just call me Les. The man in the middle, Al the Rattler Chester. And look it, whoa. What happened? The magic of television. The book just popped in.
It was such a great interview with Phil Martelli. Hall of Fame coach, but an exceptional individual. Teach you. Remember last week, you want your kid to learn under him. He teach him everything about life and not just sports and basketball. Make him a great individual.
Benny, we could have called the show the Paisans.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
Swazzini and Chesterino.
Yep.
We got it. We got it.
Great interview. Really,
well, thank you. I appreciate it. I wish we could have got 5 on, Ben. We have to figure a way to get 5 on. It'd be great.
Tony will figure it out.
I know. He's the wizard.
Time.
He's the wizard. He can pull the strings and make it happen.
Yep.
Listen, I know everybody out there. Listen, first of all, I know we had a lot of people out there throwing questions out. We did the best we could, but the interview just goes all over the place, and there's so many things to talk to Coach about, which is why I really want to bring him back. I want to talk about the state of basketball with the rules, the way the game's being played. I want to talk about some of the great players that he coached against, not just that great backcourt, but that he coached against, right? I want to talk more about Steve. If you're a Philadelphia fan, I want to talk more about this book in depth and the other book that Steve wrote as well about leadership, which is really, really good because Steve has been very successful in business. As Phil has been successful in coaching, Steve's done it in the business world. So I want to talk about that. But listen, guys, we had a couple things going on. And first of all, Al, we want to do something for you. I hope I can do this right. I hope I'm going to do this right. Tony, I haven't prepared for this. Okay. Al, you've had some big things going on. Your birthday a couple weeks ago, and you have a very, very large honor coming up next week, I believe on the 15th of March.
Actually,
it's the 13th.
The 13th.
Come on.
13th.
I know that. Come
it's
on.
Thursday the 13th. It's Thursday the 13th. Okay, I got it on Thursday.
Congratulate
which, by the way, I would be at, but we're going to be actually going to Chicago. I'm not going to be able to be there. But in honor of you being inducted, my man Tony here and everyone here at Swartz Talkin Sports has put together something very special for you, my friend. So I want you to sit back on those pillows. I want you to relax and I want you to enjoy our gift to you.
My man.
Shutting down the Hornets offense, Albert Chester reaches back for the heavy artillery and bombs the Hornet defense with his 52-yard howitzer to Kenny Bogans. And Albert Chester parlays that interception into a TD. The climax of the 58-yard drive with this 11-yard run. The resourceful Al Chester turns this bad snap into a 2-point conversion. The defense cannot advance a fumble, but it takes the Rattler offense only one play to advance it when Chester scores from the 5-yard line. Then, on a play that fakes out the cameraman as well as the Morris Brown defense, Chester scores again, this time from 13 yards away. Looks like they'll do just that. After jumping out to a 17-0 lead at the half, the Wildcats seem invincible, but Rattlers don't die easily. Florida A&M returns with a vengeance in the second period. Albert Chester goes to the air and hits sophomore put in Wyman Daniels on this 63-yard pass play. 2 plays later, Chester hits Chris Douglas from 6 yards out, and after Vince Coleman's kick, the Rattlers are back in it, trailing only 17-13. With first downs inside the 5. But the Rattlers themselves would not be denied as Chester takes it in from the 2. Next series, when Chester caps a 49-yard drive with this 4-yard keeper. Then Chester hits Emmanuel White with a 2-point conversion, and the score now stands at 29-22. Rattlers.
Ouch, man! I tell you what a treat!
What a treat! Yeah, way to go, Al. I used to tape my shoes like that too, Al, with the tape around the.
Al,
hey man,
if I was a GM, I would have brought him into the NFL, man.
Al,
come on,
if you were playing now, you'd be in the NFL. You'd be in the NFL.
Man,
I tell you what, man. I tell you, it's a tremendous time. Some of the greatest times of my life, man. And, you know, winning takes care of everything. When you're winning, it's so much fun. It was a great 4 years. And I always ask the question, if you would do anything any different, and I'll do it the same way. Even right now, knowing what I know, I do it the same way.
What does it do, Al, when you look at that stuff and you look back on those clips and those highlights? What is that bring you back to?
Man, a nostalgia. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes because that's the highlight film from our championship year, and it's so special. And the older I get, the more that becomes stuff like that is more special to me. And just fortunate to have been on a good team with great players, great coaches. And man, I tell you what, it's just exciting. I tell you what, one of the things I tell people all the time is my mother never came to a game to see me play. She never saw us lose a game. She never witnessed a loss, and I think that's huge.
Wow. Well, first of all, we want special thanks out to your son, who worked with Tony in getting that footage, and Tony for doing an amazing job putting that together. When I saw it the first time,
Tony. Great
I
job.
wanted to show you so badly, and I wanted to show Benny so badly, and Tony said, "No, you cannot do that. This has got to be a surprise." And it was outstanding. I hope everyone out there, listen, all our viewers love you. And I hope everyone really appreciated it and got a treat. It was such a treat for us to watch it. I saw what you did against UMass. I watched it live when you beat us 35-28. I saw you working the magic. I saw it. And I was cursing you out that day, but, I wish I knew you because I'd be loving it now. So we're so proud of you for being inducted.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations.
You guys also, I got to mention that you guys sent me a gift card, a dinner gift card. And believe me, I'm going to knock down some good chow, and I really appreciate you doing that. One thing I always talk about my mother because she was my best friend, and she always taught me how to say thank you. And I really appreciate you guys.
Great,
Al. We couldn't be happier. Just take some pictures at dinner for us, and we can share them on the show.
I promise. I promise I'll do it.
So real quick, guys, I know we're already we've run this show long, and it was a great interview. It was an awesome interview to get to interview a coaching legend. I mean, my God, I watched so many of his games.
Maryland beat Michigan tonight. They beat Michigan.
They did. Maryland's. I'll tell you, that's Joey's team.
I watched the beginning of the game before we went on air, and they got some ball players. Maryland.
They do. Actually, Coach said before he came on, Phil said, watch out for Maryland. You don't want to draw them. He goes, I don't know what the bracket's going to be like, but if you draw Maryland, you could be in trouble. So we're definitely going to have him back.
Florida beat Alabama at Alabama
they did.
tonight.
Okay, okay. And that was a little bit of a surprise. And Auburn lost last night, Benny, right? Auburn went down. Who else won tonight? I like it. Benny's got the up-to-date what's going on.
Connecticut, they had a delay in the game. There's 11 minutes ago. They're up 17-14.
Against who?
Against Marquette.
Okay, they're playing 23. Marquette. Okay. That's a big game for UConn.
Tennessee's beating Ole Miss in the first half at Ole Miss.
Okay.
That could be an upset there. You got to watch Ole Miss.
Okay.
Michigan beat Maryland.
I thought you said Maryland beat Michigan.
I mean, Maryland beat Michigan.
You got me all confused here. You got me all flummoxed there.
Mr. Coach there, his St. Joe's team won 91-74 against Rhode Island tonight.
Yeah, and I want and when we get Coach back, God, I feel
19-10.
Yeah, no, good year. And he tells us, call him Phil, but I just don't feel right calling him Phil. He's Coach, man. He's Coach Phil. I like the way Al does it, Coach Phil. But I'd like to get his input on, coaching at 24 years at one school, and then when it all ends, like how did it end? I know that the last season, I guess, it was he didn't go to a tournament or whatever. Or was it because of he didn't go to the tournament for a couple of years? Is that what forced him out? And what was it like to be at a school for that long and to leave? Because he has to have an emotional attachment to that place.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Oh yeah. So you coach somewhere that long, you want to go out when you want to go out, and he probably deserved it, and to go out on his terms. But
you guys remember that 2003, 2004 team? That was a tremendous team.
Yeah. Jameer Nelson he had a great NBA career.
I played with Ole. Well, they were both first-round draft picks. Both him and Delonte West were first-rounders. And I like the idea, like I know John had asked the question about what was the connection, to Michigan. It was really interesting how he got that Michigan job and how it was really John Calipari that basically said to Juwan Howard, hey, hang up the phone and call this number right here. So really, maybe we get Phil We get John Calipari and Gino Auriemma on a show one of these days.
St. Joe's. Well, the conference they were in, they were with UMass.
Yeah,
right?
Atlantic 10. But when he started coaching there, I think that Calipari was just about leaving at that time because Calipari left in '97 to join the Nets in the NBA. Hey guys, before we go, real quick, and anybody still out there, first time watching the show, hit that subscribe button. You saw what kind of a show this was tonight. We get legends on the show. We get legends of sports. We get legends of business. We had them both on tonight in Phil Martelli and Steve Stefano, and we're going to have them both back again. So please hit that subscribe button and comment. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know who you want on next time. You never know. This is Swartz Talkin Sports. Anybody can show up.
You got to get Steve down here so we can get him on the golf course.
Well, we're going to get Steve down playing with Steve. He's a New Bern.
He's two hours away.
I know. Stevie can hit the golf ball. Stevie can hit the golf ball. I want to shoot some free throws with him. I want to see if Coach...
You could hit the golf ball, too, a lot.
I can hit the golf ball. Hey, you're playing with me Sunday on my foursome, so you better show up.
Oh, yeah. That's some team we got there.
63. Al, we play these tournaments every Sunday. Everybody's good, and you got Benny and Ryan. This team, our handicaps combined are like 63.
Yeah.
It's pretty pathetic.
He usually tries to even everything out, Al. This week he's got the good golfers, the medium golfers, and then there's us.
I know, it's bad. Hey, listen, we're going to go in about one more minute. I just want to get your take on something real quick. Max Crosby, the Raiders, gets a record deal over $100 million. He is 27 years old, so he's played some good football, came off an ankle injury last year, didn't play the whole season. But what do you guys make of the Raiders emptying the bank and making him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL right now? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
High energy.
I think it's huge. Yeah. Go ahead, Benny. Go ahead.
He's a real team motivator. I mean, he'll get you going, and he'll it's very similar to Myles Garrett. Cleveland don't want to let him go.
Well, Cleveland's going to have to trade him because he's going to force his way out. DJ Metcalf today says he wants out of Seattle. Seattle has just jettisoned their wide receiver. Who was the
Lockhart.
guy? Lockhart. He's gone. He'll be scooped up. I guarantee you. The Chiefs will get him. I don't know how. Kansas City's going to get him. You watch. Telling you. Joe Tunney just got traded.
Who?
Joe Tunney just got traded from the Chiefs to the Lions today. Tooney, the offensive lineman. The guard who played tackle in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
Detroit
going to be
had
a lot of musical chairs. A lot of things are going to be happening in the next few weeks, guys. So just stand by.
Yeah.
We have a lot to talk about in the coming days.
We got a lot. We got the NCAA basketball tournament with the NFL draft. We got so much stuff coming on. But, guys, listen, we got to let everyone go. We all have to go to bed. So, listen, for my special guests, Phil Martelli and Steve Stefano, guys, thank you so very much. It was just an honor to have you both on the show. For my amazing chat girl, Joni, who's back in the saddle right next to me. For Al the Rattler Chester, good luck with the A&M Rattlers basketball teams in the upcoming tournament. My man, Benny the Bookster Millie, Sunday you better hit him straight and long. And, of course, the wizard who puts it all together, Tony Smeraldi. This is L. Steven Swartz saying, have a great weekend.
Have a great night.
Oh, by the way, guys, next Wednesday, it's going to be a special theme show. It's going to be wrestling. You guys won't be on, but you got to watch. It's going to be hysterical. I'm interviewing the French-Canadian Frankenstein. This ought to be something. So you wrestling fans, Wednesday, the 12th at 8 o'clock, it's me and the French-Canadian Frankenstein with special guest Stu Kaplan, my wrestling insider. We'll see you all next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Good night, everybody.
Good night.